we also felt we needed to consult with some role models who have done exceedingly well in their chosen profession. And of course, without necessarily trying to flatter him, he has done a lot in the advertising sector and beyond. Those who are familiar with his profile would know that he not only started from the scratch. I mean, he was one of the founding fathers of that industry, and also built an empire that today has moved from just one being an advertising agency alone, but one that is has become a conglomerate of so many companies. And sir, on behalf of the management and staff of City People, I'd like to say a very big thank you to you for accepting this. It's not easy to get what we call the big fish like him to accept to be here with us, but he's somebody who has been a role model to a lot of us, and I guess to thousands of people, millions of people who I've never met him in flesh, but who have kept following his career and his profile and his lectures. He has delivered so many of them in the last several years, and we also know that he's been part of the TV series which ran a few years back, the CEO, and I mean, we cannot, if we go into the profile of Mr. Biodun Shobanjo, we don't live here today, but I'd just like to say that I found his simplicity very infectious, and in the sense that till today he still bears simply Mr. He hasn't added amazing. And at the same time, I mean, even though he's in his 70s, he doesn't look it. But we've had to based on his exact age before we. Because some people said no, you can't say he's he doesn't even look it and all that. But I know that he perhaps will share with us how he's always able to balance. I mean, he's refreshingly young look with his accomplishments in advertising. And, on behalf of everybody here, I want to say very big thank you and welcome you, sir, to share with us your thoughts on 45 years of advertising. That looks like, I mean, like yesterday, I mean, made it look so easy and so, but of course we know that, I mean, you've been at it for forever, from your days as a civil servant to when you moved into the private sector and you carved a niche for yourself in this sector. Thank you very much. Welcome, sir.
Good afternoon. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to thank Sheye for the kind sentiments he's expressed about me. I was trying to pinch myself to be sure he was talking about me. But here we are. There are some things I cannot deny, in the sense that it is true I have spent 45 years in the business. Sometimes even I cannot believe it, that 45 years is gone since one started, but that's the reality. And we must thank God for his mercies. Sheye must have a reason for wanting to find out how what I've done is relevant to what you could. I'm not a journalist. Even if I'm a fellow of the Commonwealth Journalists Association, because I started my career first in the media, as you all know. And perhaps because I thought that at the time, looking back now, I think I made a mistake. Because I felt that there wasn't too much money to be made in it, I opted out. And I recall one of my teachers in secondary school having warned me that I should not, in fact, venture into journalism. And when I asked him why, he said, well, you would most likely spend the greater part of your life in jail because you are too blunt. You say things as they are, and no other colors of describing a black or a white. It's either a black or a white. So I'm here today. I will share my experiences, but you see, I didn't think that just telling my history of 45 years would really have anything to do with what you do. On the contrary, I want to open your eyes to where I think the opportunities lie, based on the thing that I have myself have seen these past 45 years, not just in Nigeria, but globally. I think that is the essence of for me, what I call thought leadership. Of course, in telling the story, I would make references to certain things that happened at particular points in time. They may not be very accurate because age has a way of affecting some of these things, particularly if they are not documented. You know, I like to do things properly. And for that reason, people who work with me sometimes find that this man is, his wahala is too much, you know. But it is all in an effort to ensure that whatever is delivered maximally and professionally. I failed to ask certain questions when he wrote me the letter. I think he called me and talked about it. If you know this man, more often than when he makes a request, you can't say no to him because he's such a nice person. And because I have the privilege to watch him from when he started, in any case, the least I can do is to support as little as I can. But I asked a few questions, but I didn't quite ask all the questions I should have asked. One, whom will I be addressing? Because you really cannot be talking, presenting back to an audience you don't know. What kind of people are they? How many are they going to? So anyway, my first shocker was he'd written me a letter saying 2 o'clock. My wife drew my attention to an advert or some advert that said 3 o'clock. And she said, look, knowing you, you'll get there quarter to 2. They've said this is 3 o'clock, so you better take your time. So, but I still told one of my colleagues here who works in IT, I said, imagine this is 2 o'clock. Because in fact, when I got that information, when I got the 3 o'clock information, which I saw the advert and speaking with myself, I had already told the man that the thing was going to be 2 based on the letter that I had. So when I called him at about quarter to 2 to say, you know what? He said, there's nobody here. So I said, well, I think the thing is actually 3 o'clock. That I saw an advert that said 3 o'clock. In our own organization, if we had senior management meetings and we called you for a particular time, it didn't matter how senior you were. If you came 1 minute past that time, I would lock the door. You come. So for me, ordinarily, I would not even allow you to come in once we've started. But we can't do that. It's in Nigeria. We need to. The change has to happen. You forgive me, I talk a lot. Because that's the business in which I am. You know, I'm the business of communication. You would not know the amount of copy that we have to write to produce a 30-second commercial. You just don't want to know. You will not know how many days it will take to shoot a 6-second commercial. That's the business. But we have to communicate, and the communication must be so that everybody can understand that when you watch a TV commercial for 30 seconds, you must take the message out of it. All right? Because I'm telling you to take a decision. You must understand why I'm telling you to take that buying decision. And I have to tell the story in 30 seconds. So, really, let me take you through these 45 years. And I hope that you won't feel too bored. I have set an agenda. There will be a broad overview. There will be what I call digital disruption and the marketing imperative that I have witnessed impact or affect the way that the past 45 years of my life have gone. But it's been a very interesting journey. So let me start off with the history of what I call a flux, because there's a flux that's going on. Constantly, there's a flux going on. And maybe some of us don't take note. We just think, I wake up, something happens, I get on with it. But changes are happening every minute. Every minute. So let us talk about this flux. So let's first talk about the Nigerian Advertising Agency itself. Because I have witnessed these things. There was the first generation agencies pre-1980. And these were the agencies that were there to let you know that changes are happening. Today there's no agency called Biodun in Nigeria as we know it. When I was a young man, these were companies where I wanted to work. As soon as I left, in fact, when I was in broadcasting, I was trying to change jobs. And I wanted to work for companies like Vitas, Beta, Grant Advertising. And you will find that the first 5 of those agencies were owned by foreigners. All right? And then you had other companies that started. All of this happened pre-1980, by the way. At the time, there were maybe 40 advertising agencies in Nigeria. But the ones that people would usually refer to at the time were these ones. So I was lucky to work in one of them called Grant Advertising. And you know this story. It was an American-owned company. It came here. I remember when they started from an hotel called Bristol Hotel. That was on Martin Street by Broad Street. And they took a suite there. And that was the offices. You know the way Americans do their things. They are just very crazy. And you go and set up an agency in an hotel. But they had to come because they had clients like Coca-Cola. A couple of American clients who wanted them to just get on with it. Because Grant was in some countries in Africa. So anyway, I was lucky to be employed to the company 1 year after they started. By the time I joined, they had moved next door to 48 Broad Street. And we were on the 5th floor. It was a small but very nice agency. A lot of Americans, a couple of English guys. Sorry. Oh, okay. Okay. You can't hear me properly?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. No. Give it a no.
Okay. All right. I'm sorry. So, we moved to 148 Broad Street. And one of our clients at the time was Federal House. And because he and I had worked in broadcasting together, it was very comfortable for the agency to say, handle this account. And he was recording with EMI at the time. And I remember one day Fela came to the agency, he was very upset about whatever. I started throwing things from the 5th floor downstairs to Manchester, including typewriter. And then I went to his house at Marshall. She said, Madam. So from then, he refused coming to the agency. Any meeting I had to have with him was in his house. And most times he would be in his underpants. But it was an interesting period. So this went on, first generation, and then for various reasons, I'm not going to tell you why I left, but I suspect that Sheye would tell you why he also left. Maybe I think it was Concord or somewhere. No, I think either the news or Newswatch. I can't remember. But I knew him all that time because my friends were the owners and publishers of the soap. And I used to go to Newswatch a lot. But they were also one of our clients in our very early days. But because sometimes when you ask entrepreneurs, people that they call, I don't see myself as an entrepreneur, to be honest. Or let me put this way, I'm an entrepreneur by accident. Because the first thing was not to go out there and begin to employ people. Because that wasn't my thing. And I am an establishment person. Because I grew up to see my father as an establishment person. He worked in railways. And I knew he held his job very, very seriously. My mother was an establishment because she was a trader. So I wasn't about jumping all over the place. In fact, it was very difficult for me to tell my chairman at the time, the late Chief Lawson, that I was going to leave because I was a young man. The company looked after me. But the company was not headed in the right direction. That was the problem. So I woke up, I didn't feel like going to work, and yet I was being very well paid. The company, as deputy managing director, I was deputy managing director, I was 31. And they looked after me. You can't imagine a 31-year-old, they give you a whole house, they give you a cook steward, generator. In 1977, you had 2 company cars, you had two drivers. I didn't have children. I was like a bachelor boy. I was married, but life was very good. So why should I leave that job and start all the hassle? But I woke up, I was very well paid. I think I was earning about close to 2,000 naira a month at the time, which was a lot of money. And yet, I woke up not feeling like I should go to work. Why? When I joined the company, it was the 3rd biggest company in the country. And then 4.5 years later, I got to the board. And there was a Nigerian who was MD. I was deputy MD. Then we had an expatriate who was number 3 in line. And we had a couple of expatriates working for us. But the company never challenged to be number 1. And by nature, I'm a challenger. I like to challenge. Because I believe that being number 1 is not birthright. It's not a birthright of anybody. You work for it. So we were not working to be number 1. I had colleagues who were very complacent at being number 3. So 4.5 years, another 3 years after I became director, I said, look, this is not what I want to do. To be collecting money and not challenging, because Liters was number 1, OBM was number 2. Today OBM does not even exist anymore. I can't even tell you the number of liters in the league today. It is struggling. Because other people have come and we are taking them. If you look at your own business, the entertainment journal industry, he didn't start off being number 1. I was there when we were, was doing Fame. When we was Prime People. When we was doing Prime People, I was there. He started after us. It was circulating over 200,000 copies a week. And then he didn't have any challengers. And then the people who put money in the business didn't understand the business and were harassing him. So in frustration, he had to pack it in, and other people came. Even when other people came, Fame and all those happened, Sheye was not there. But today, the number 1 entertainment journal, newspaper is your party. So I believe you guys have worked hard to protect that position. That was my point, that you can challenge for the number 1 position. And that's what brought us to where we are. So these other companies are what you might call 2nd generation agencies. And then after that came 3rd generation agencies. I didn't add one. There's one that I should have added. It's called the Think Shop. The The Think Shop. The Think Shop New Bonnet. Interestingly, that company belongs to us. All right. In fact, we only started it last year. Why do these things happen? Because there's a flux. And the brief to the Think Shop is that in X number of years, it must be better than inside communications. That's the challenge. And Insight is aware of that. The management of Insight understand that. That now you have a challenger brand within the group, and my brief to them is that they must overtake you if you don't pull your socks. It is not a bad right, you must work for it. Because there's the possibility that Insight may begin to feel complacent. And the same thing would happen in your business. If you guys don't pull your socks, a challenger brand will come. Not only from within your group, but also from somebody who just says, you know what, there's a gap here. I can fill that gap. So let us look at the Nigerian. On the left side, let us look at what we had. In those days, there was one network television station, one network radio station. There are about 3 or 4 newspapers. And then you had a couple of TV stations in the region, WNTV, WNPS, all those kind of people. They were all there. Now, but let us look at total number of television sets in Nigeria, 3.6 million.
3.6 million.
Total. In the entire country. There were 12 billion radio sets. 12 billion. And then, how much did we pay for adverts? By the time, in fact, we didn't start charging 100,000 until around 2020, around 1999, 2000, that's when we started charging. Take outdoor sites for instance. There were what we knew as 16 sheet boards and 40 sheet boards. I know how much you paid a month for those boards, 16 naira 50 kobo. But because of the flux that was happening, today we have over 150 terrestrial TV stations. From 3, then moved to 11. Today there are over 150. TV stations, 200 plus, with satellite stations. Radio stations, over 240. Press, over 40 newspapers. But the question you ask yourself, with all of this growth that's happening, I have always held the view that media rates in Nigeria are very cheap. To put it in perspective, but when I say that, there's a caveat. Because you cannot go to advertisers to say, you know what, I want to increase the rate of putting adverts in your product. The first question they ask you is why? In the period in which we had 10 newspapers, all right, the Daily Times was circulating about 150, 200,000 copies a day. Sunday Times definitely was doing over 250,000 copies every week. Today, the largest circulating newspaper in Nigeria does not circulate 50,000 copies. So when you look at readership, you look at circulation, look at readership, it's all going down. So there's no justification to increase rates. So the question we ask ourselves is, where is the future for this business? The media business generally. We've seen, you know how much I do, how many of these media houses have collapsed and died. So, and again, I put that in perspective. I checked the rate, the circulation figures of New York Times. Average Monday to Friday circulation figures about 1.5 million. Advert rate for a full page $106,000. $106,000. Now, if you put that in naira, that puts the whole thing in perspective. That's about 20 million naira for a full page. Yes. But readership is 2 per copy. So at 1 point something million, every day 2 point something million people read the New York Times. It does not include the online version, by the way. If you add the online version, the online version even has more readership than the print edition. That's about twice. And I'll come to that to let you know where the money is going. Now, we'll get to that at some. Am I?
You're making it.
Am I making sense?
More than enough, sir.
So, what are the drivers of this flux, this chain that we are seeing? And how are we trying to bridge that gap? I was talking to a colleague of mine this morning, funny. He just sent me a text about one of our client contacts that we used to work for many years ago, who passed on. And I replied him, I said, you know, it's very unfortunate that all these wonderful people that we met in our very early stages are now passing on one by one. And I mentioned Mr. Tuki Braithwaite. In 1984, Mr. Braithwaite came to us as his advertising agency for Nigeria Advance Party. And ever since, we built a solid relationship with him until he passed on. So also his family, they know us. We participated in this funeral that just happened. I mentioned Mr. Yinkali Jadu, who was buried only last week. He was our client at Nikon. He was the MD. And he was an incredible client. All right? And then he mentioned Emmanuel Elayo, who died. He used to work for NASCO. All right? Way back in the 70s, from our days at Grant, we knew this man. When we started Insight, he followed us to Insight with the company. He just passed on. Now, the integrity of this kind of people in the area of knowledge is absolutely incredible. But then today, because I'm saying to you, what is creating, has there been a gap between clients and the service providers? Today, you find much younger people who perhaps are even more knowledgeable than these people that we talk about. But there's a question mark about today's clients, and I won't go into it, because if I say it, you're going to put me in trouble. But just know that there is a gap between today's clients and yesterday's clients. The guy that we used to regard as our clients. There's also the consumer himself, the person that buys products and services. He's changing every day. Their attitudes are changing. Their needs are changing. The pressures under which they are so totally different. I tell my children, look, I feel so sorry for you kids. Because as a bachelor boy, when I remember, I rented a flat in Surulere at the time. And my rent was paid every month. There were 4 flats in the building. I was young. Other young people occupied, there was a doctor. We paid next to nothing as our rents. And it was collected in arrears every month. So the pressure on us was very, very little. You wanted to buy a car, 2000, with about, I remember that even when we started Insight, I had approached a bank to get a loan for our staff at the time, in our first year. We wanted to buy 3 cars. We wanted to give 3 staff loans to buy cars. We wanted to buy Volkswagen Beetle cars. You know how much loan we applied for 3 cars? 10,000 naira to buy 3 cars. Because each car was less than 3,000 naira. Now, so if you took a loan for 3,000 and you have to pay it over a 4-year period, imagine how much we have to pay. Next to nothing. So for today's consumer, which is yourselves, your wives, because you are the people that every advertising would appeal to. The pressure under which they are is so totally. So that changing attitude itself informs the kind of things that we also need to do. And of course, there's competition. So to meet all of these things, we started innovating. We had to start innovating because we found that there were opportunities to meet those pressures and needs or wants of the consumer. Because don't forget, I said to you, the clients at that stage had started changing. They were more than, some of them were acquiring MBAs, they were acquiring doctorate degrees, which the older clients didn't have. All right? So it meant that even on your own side, you needed to up the quality of people that you have to employ. So we are creating specialized companies. So we, for example, were the first to start a PR company when we started the Quadrant company. We were meeting all of those days. We were the first people by 1991 to start what is called a media independent. We started what was called at the time All Seasons Media Company. When we found that outdoor companies were not meeting the needs of our clients, we floated our own outdoor company in 1984. 4 years after we started our first company. And I'm sure when you go around, you see some of the boards of that company. Today it's called, we changed the name. At some point in time, I changed the name to Optimum Exposure. If you look at that massive billboard before you climb the Third Mainland Bridge, if you are coming from the island, on the right, that's one of the sites that Optimum Exposure does. Now, I told you that once upon a time, if you bought a site on a 16-sheet board, you paid 16 naira 50 kobo. Today, if you want to place an ad on any of those digital billboards that you see, the cost runs every month between 5 million and 15 million per month. Yes. But the other side of the coin is, how much do you think it would cost to put up a board like that? And do you know that on each of those digital boards that you find, let me speak for the one that Optimum owns, you will put a 150 kV generator on every site. You will put a minimum of 2 security guards there, plus 2 area boys. Now you look at the running costs. Now if those screens go bad, sometimes you fly in the expert. We use a company called Dactronics from the United States. We have to fly them in. So running costs are very high. You may say, oh, but they're charging 50 million. That's nothing. Oh, but by the way, that's 15 million per face. Each of those digital boards has 6 faces. But there was a need. This has changed our lives.
God bless you, sir. God bless you.
So data, digital, all of those things are changing our lives. So because of that, what is the implication? I did talk about, if you look at X1979, for example, by the end of the total amount of money spent on advertising was 20 million naira. Total. Every advertising agency, anybody, 20 million. That was how much was spent. By 2013, exit 2013, 136 billion was spent on advertising in this country. Yes, 136. So now, Sheye, you must ask yourself, of that amount, how much came to you? That begins to put it in context. That's why I said, I don't want to come here and tell you the story of my life. But what has happened in the past 45 years? What have you guys benefited from it? Forget the cover price of the magazine. Advertising is supposed to be the backbone of any publishing house. That is what should generate the revenue for you constantly. Now, if you are not getting a fair share of that, what is informing it? If you understand what is informing it, then you can, management can stand and say, how do we address this? And where should we be looking? All right? Hello?
Yes, sir.
Are you with me?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Very much, sir.
Very good.
Very much.
Globally,
Yes, sir.
$135 billion was spent on advertising, but this galloped to 500 billion at the end of 2014. $500 billion
Dollars.
was spent globally on advertising. So when you look at that, 135 billion was spent globally. Nigeria only spent 136 billion naira. When you put it in dollar terms and look at the equation, you'll find that Nigeria is under-advertised. We do not spend enough on advertising for the 170 million people that we have here. So, the media itself is in a flux.
Media is in a flux.
Because, you know, as I've said, there's reduced print run. Even television itself must move to digital.
God bless you, sir.
Out of home is no longer static, everybody is moving digital now.
God bless you.
Because if you keep putting all those
Theaters.
static billboards, you're just wasting your time. You probably will get 1.5 million. When somebody who has the digital is collecting 5 to 15 million. But can you do the investment? We are working on a site now, as I speak to you. That site is costing us close to 1 billion naira.
1 billion.
1 billion to put up
1 billion.
from scratch to finish. But of course, you must know that you have to do that, you need financial institutions to support you. That's the only way you can do it. And you've got to be sure that you can generate the revenue to help you pay back. But that's the way to go. If the TV stations have to go digital, you want to know how much it's going to cost them to go digital. Very expensive.
Yes, sir.
All right? So the media itself is changing, it's in a flux. So just look at what has happened to us. Even from 1990 to 2010, see what has happened. All right? See what has happened. You had static, then we started embracing social media, which is for information, and then e-commerce took over. So what has happened? Suddenly, this new generation, what they call the millennials, have a totally different attitude to the way they take information. Once upon a time, when we started, it was from the consumer to participant. In other words, when you say the consumer, what do I mean? When you play, even they will teach you that when you go to school or when you read mass communication. When they said the medium is the message, it's a lie.
It's a lie now. Big lie.
Not anymore. Because once upon a time, if I played a commercial to a housewife, I said to her, Omo washes white and it shows. Alright, so buy this, your child's clothes will become so white. The woman tended to believe me. And she will go and buy a packet of Omo. Today, you can't play that commercial to her. Because she will say to you, how? How? You can't tell me that. Because she's enlightened. You say, look at these jokers. How can you tell me that? I'm not blind. You have to show me. That's why when you watch commercials of detergents globally,
Yes.
they are scientifically proving a point to you. Not only that, they would urge you to participate in the decision making at what they call the point of sale. So when you go to in advanced countries today, when you enter shops, you find, they call them consumer touch points. You will find people who are demonstrating all sorts of things to you to convince you. And then they now say to you, you can go to our website and check something. Now they now begin to engage you in the conversation. So the consumer that we used to beam information to is now a participant. So much so that they have even taken it so much to the extent that when you look at digital, they are even putting together the communication for clients. the first set of communication that a car called Toyota Yaris, when Toyota Yaris was launched in America, the first set of commercials that were run were created by consumers, not the advertising agencies. Because they said, the client just said, please, in their own community, they said, go to any of our showrooms and see what we have put in the yard. If you remember, Toyota is a very small car.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Very portable.
And you know, in America, they don't like small cars. But they wanted, Toyota wanted to convince consumers, a particular group of, and they're young. Some of them are students and things like that. So they will go there, take the car, demonstrate, and then begin, when they go to the website, begin to tell Toyota, why have you not done this? Why have you not done this? Why can you not that? You know, they were asking questions. And Toyota took on all the questions and started improving on the car. Resultantly, they even created the communication. So these are the kind of foxes that I'm talking about. People who used to be viewers have become curators. Mass, there's nothing like mass audience anymore, to be honest. Because you are talking to every information man is one-on-one. Very discreet. If you are talking, if I want to, you know, if I'm advertising even Indomie,
yes, sir,
for a wife who has a child, that housewife, if she's enlightened, hey, but to put it in context, do you know how many, I was shocked the other day, I went to an event, and these young housewives were talking about, oh, I buy my food from whatever, whatever. You see, you went for that, you said, you buy this day on Saturday because of Daily Mountain.
yes, sir.
Sunday because of Samuel. It's some people now buy Guardian because of the Newswatch guys who are writing for Guardian. The truth is, the price increases are not sustainable. They are not, when you look at it. But the challenge for the publishers is that they are not generating the kind of revenue that they should. For some of the reasons I've told you here. Before now, everybody relied on advertising. When you open this day, the first 3 pages or 4 is all adverts of banks.
Yes, sir.
When you look through those papers, what product ad do you find in them?
I don't say anything. I didn't even read that.
Where are the service advertisements? It's only the banks and the telcos. Now the banks are in trouble because of the lending they made to the oil sector, all right, which those debts are, a lot of them are going to be non-performing because of the way oil is gone.
Yes.
So resultantly, the banks themselves, and we can see from the results that you know, so really, what was anywhere in the world, what sustains this business is advertisements.
Yes.
But the advertisements are no longer there because the advertisers, the clients, are asking very tough questions. And I told you, the consumer today is between 25 and 45. That's what any brief you get from a client, he will tell you, I can tell you in the area of drinks, he will say, I want to appeal to what is called Yahoods. No, let me explain that to you. Y-A-U-D, young adult urban drinker. Young adult urban, it's called a Yahoo. And his age profile is between 18 and 35. All right? You look at the guys who are doing fags, cigarettes. He says, I'm looking at Yahoos, young adult urban smokers. Age profile 18 to 35. Most of these products, when you come to products of babies products, children's products, they say they are appealing to young adult urban mothers. Same profile, 22 to 35. No, I'm sorry, I'm wrong. Yeah. You can't tell someone to pay 100 and something thousand naira for putting an ad in this day. for a full page. 120,000 naira. For what? How many spots would that get me on digital? That's the question.
$50.
And I know the person that will see that ad.
Yeah.
I know his profile. I know the numbers.
Yeah.
So what the hell are we talking about? That's the challenge. That is the challenge. That's why those guys are increasing. And I think Medin understands.
Yes, sir.
But she would also increase subsequently.
I'll be shocked.
She will.
I don't need her.
She will. My problem with this verse today, though, is that read one, you've read all.
Same story.
I mean, because of the nature of my job, I have about 6-7 this verse on my table every day. All right? At home, weekends, at least I buy 4 from my pocket. 4. But I read one. In fact, in 1 hour, I'm done with all the 4 people. In 1 hour. I don't read Ovation.
Okay.
I read City People.
Okay, sir.
And I will confess why I read it. I'm sorry to tell you that. My wife buys it. I wouldn't buy it because of my age profile.
Yes, sir.
But my wife, she buys it religiously.
I know.
She wants to look at all the things happening, gossip, you know. So I read it. I mean, I read it. That's why I could tell you that there was advertising. Reading that I saw it. I had Baranga Chukwu daughter's story, and I read it. I mean, the truth is that the print medium will not die.
How would it survive?
It will not die. So far, there is no way. Just look at what's happening. The most advanced country in the world today is the United States. And if we look at China, what they have done is to recognize these millennials. And that's why they are producing online version for them. You must begin to have an online version of City People. And you must create. Why do people look at Linda Ikeji? They read the stories there. People, it's not that. Firstly, I accept that the reading culture in Nigeria is terrible now. But that does not mean that people are not reading. They are reading the blogs.